which we make the difference, and it is the thing that distinguishes cities one from another and makes them the places that people want to be. One, first and most important, is education. That is in fact what the Lieutenant Governor said just a moment ago, and that is my absolute conclusion for as far into the future as I can see. It affects everything. Whether you have children, whether you remember being a child, whether you like children or not. And in every city there are a certain number of people who will, even in a gathering like this, acknowledge that they do not like children. It doesn't matter. It's still the most important thing that happens in your city. Second, public safety. People won't come, and they certainly won't stay if the place isn't safe, and the whole place has to be safe. And it's that simple and straightforward. Friday night, I arrived in Philadelphia. I was picked up in a cab driven by a Laotian cab driver. Within 5 minutes, he told me that he used to live in this neighborhood and that he had moved from this neighborhood to another neighborhood because this neighborhood was not safe. He wanted to tell me about the safety and security of that place and why he had moved. I got in the cab this morning to come here. Now the cab was being driven by a fellow from the Ivory Coast. And he almost immediately began talking about the security of the same neighborhood as we drove through, and he had moved himself and his family out of the state of Pennsylvania and into Delaware because it was more safe. These are things he felt the need, they both felt the need to share with me, because for them, safety and security, even as much more recent arrivals in this country than virtually any of us, except perhaps Mike Neal, 5 years in Tulsa. It was front of mind and the most important thing. And number 3 is quality of life. And that, again, is a coda to what we've already heard. Now, this is highly subjective and it's highly personal, and from the materials, you will see a little different in each place depending on region, size, history. I understand all of that. But from Sulphur to Ponca City to Bartlesville. We'd say Bartlesville in Tennessee, but I think you say Bartlesville, and that sounds to me right. Tulsa and Oklahoma City, you understand that people have come to the point where they want and they expect, they feel the need for, and they insist that you deliver. In the place where they're going to spend their lives, quality of life. None of these things, these 3 critical components of a successful city, can you do alone anymore. We know that, frankly, because we tried. We tried for a long time in much of this country to do each of these things separately and by ourselves. Public schools were city creations. The city of Boston happens to have had the first one. That's where they began, and I'm not making any statement about local control or where the power or authority should be. I'm simply saying that at this point in our history, a city cannot do it all by themselves, provide the education that is needed for the people within it. Crime, we tried that too, alone. My neighborhood is safe. In North Nashville tonight, something bad happened. In South Nashville tonight, something bad happened. In East Nashville, and me sitting at home going, oh, that's not my neighborhood, I'm okay. The hard truth is, if it happens anywhere in a city, it touches others in the city, and if it happens anywhere in that city, it touches either directly or indirectly, and soon will reach the suburbs, and you know the rest of the story. The notion that any place can survive alone in this kind of environment is simply not right. And in quality of life, for a long time we thought, in Nashville in particular, well, if we don't have it, we can find it in Chicago. If we can't buy it here, we can go to Atlanta. If it's not available socially or in some other way, well, we can get to New York. At least some of us can. This doesn't work anymore either, if it frankly ever did. We can't do it all alone anymore. And again, I would say Governor Askins said something very close to that very early on in her remarks. In the case of education, it's going to take a broad commitment to good schools, and that broad commitment has to, again, be across not just my school or my neighborhood school, all critically important. Your child can only go to one school at a time. I get it. I was there. I'm with you. But at the end of the day, those good schools have to permeate the whole city, the whole place, and be available to everyone. To hold families and children there, to bring more from behind. Frankly, to attract and hold the good teachers that you want, and to train those teachers, and then ultimately to keep them trained and developed going forward, requires resources that no one city can easily provide over any length of time. To assure access to higher education and special education, we've tried that too. Let the big city be the place that provides the special things that special people need. and let the other places not. The people will move, and indeed they do. But suddenly what happens is there's an imbalance, not just in the resources, but also in the places. People have now relocated themselves based upon the services that are available instead of, frankly, the benefits and the need being shared across the larger city. People moving not because that's where they want to be, but because the service was simply distributed in a certain way, because a certain place decided they could do it at a certain time. They can't do it anymore, not like that. It's not required, I would argue, that you have the best schools today. It is required that you want to. Businesses that are looking out across this country understand the American school system and its challenges. They understand the things that are being faced in their own city. They know that we are not, any of us, where we want to be. But they have to believe that you want to have as good, if not the best schools possible. If they believe in their hearts that that's what you want, then they'll come and take a chance on you and move with you as well. And I would argue the reverse is also true. On the issue of safety, I won't dwell. I think this state, this region, understands issues of public safety, understood them earlier than much of us, understand the way in which municipal boundaries do not stop or block or prevent the most awful and horrific things that might be imagined in our world. Certainly since 9/11, the rest of the country has begun to understand and been more cooperative and more collaborative. But the notion that each place can have all of the things that are necessary to prevent all of the possibilities that might occur in a matter of safety. There's not enough money, enough resources in the world for every city and town to have everything they need, but there is enough if it's shared and distributed and collaboratively arranged in a way in which you stand behind each other and with each other and for each other at any moment in time. And the same thing goes, in my opinion, between the state and the local governments as well. And lastly, it's true for quality of life. Mike mentioned housing, he mentioned jobs, natural resources, issues of parks and greenways, arts and culture and sports. These are all things that ultimately and often are located or centered or begun inside of municipalities, but you and I know again that the boundaries that were established a long time ago do not necessarily, or by definition, contain or define or ultimately provide. I can give you a small and kind of funny little example. We built a dog park. I imagine you have them here now. We didn't have one at the time. We built a dog park. I didn't know what would happen. I thought a dog park. I have a dog park would be good. I think we'll have a dog park. Suddenly, people came pouring into the neighborhood from counties all around us with their dogs. It was the happiest moment. I can't tell you what a happy mayor I was. All those happy people and happy dogs. But you know what? The people in the neighborhood weren't so happy. As the people came pouring in from all over, who knew where, bringing dogs from who knew. They weren't even our dogs. Who knew where they were going back to? We had no idea. Those dogs, I mean, who knew? It's a small thing, it's a little thing, but these kinds of things apply across all of these areas of quality of life. They are things that bring people to you, but they are also things that people ultimately want to share and be a part of. The notion that you can do it alone and not worry about the people downstream is wrong. When my water department was begun, there was no sewer department. In fact, until 1955, we poured all of the sewer of Nashville sewage untreated into the river, said the then director of the water department, and I quote, "The solution to pollution is dilution." Well, you can scientifically, there's enough higher education folks here, you can decide whether that's true or not. All they meant was it's floating on downstream and we don't see it anymore. We're not sure where it goes, but it's not with us. And that's indeed what so much of us did. It doesn't work. It really didn't work then, and it certainly doesn't work anymore at all. We tried to do it separately. We tried business separate from government. We tried, frankly, cities separate from suburbs, competing with each other. And it didn't work. You didn't hear much about us until about a little over a decade ago. Mike Neal was there. A decision was made by the Chamber of Commerce that we would bring business and the government together. That the partnership, then called 2000, which was a chamber creation and raised money from across the business community, would also include political leadership. And the case would be made early on with a new mayor in my case and with other leaders, that we were all in this together. And that when we worked together on these things within a city and across boundaries, that in fact we were successful, or we should be. That was the pitch. And that's what we did.